We're going to have some fun.
Yay!
What's up, folks, and welcome to the Victor Cruz Acting Studio Podcast. That's right, we are back. It's been a while. We've been away for a little bit, but we are back here on your computer, your phone, wherever you are receiving this podcast. This podcast was created as a way to share information to fellow actors, to educate, to help to continue to promote some of the really cool things we're doing here at the studio. But today is a very special day because not only do we have some guests in the house that mean the world to me, mean the absolute world to me, but these are my actual brother and sister joining me on today's episode. We've got superstar, amazing singer, talented in so many ways, Arelis Cruz. We also have Gio, the Gran Eklectic, my brother. And these are my actual siblings. Give a big round of applause to my family. They are here, folks. They are here.
Thank you.
Yes. Well, welcome to the Victor Cruz Acting Studio Podcast. It's so crazy. It's crazy because it's so cool to have you guys here. I think this is the first time you guys have been on this show, right?
Yeah, man. Where do I know you from?
We had met at our mom's house.
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember? Every day and every year growing up?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I came in a little later to the game.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. We had something going and then you showed up. But we are happy that you're here. I like how during setup, I was like, do you want me to fix the microphone? I can set it for you.
Falling.
Is it falling?
Yeah.
My God, this is crazy.
I'm going to hold it.
It got excited.
I'm just going to sit right here like this.
You started talking and it was like down here.
I won't even talk.
I'm so sorry. It has a mind of its own. It's like a Venom mic stand. It's an alien mic stand.
Yeah, I think I tightened it. So.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Well, welcome, guys. Thank you for being here.
Yo, thank you for having us, man.
Yeah. And I think what's really, really special about this, and I don't know if a lot of folks know this watching and listening, but, you know, this entire family, super talented. Everybody's got some sort of gift in the arts world. And for some of the folks watching and listening, you guys know us because we might be friends, we might be associates, you might be fans of our work. But for those that don't know, we are a talented family, man. And like, for instance, you know, my brother, who is just an amazing musician, amazing music producer, also an actor, also a comedian. I mean, this guy is a true Renaissance man. And my sister, who a lot of people didn't know, that she is an amazing singer. And I don't just say that because they're my brother and sister. Like, I don't have to sit here and lie to you guys. These guys, they kill it. They kill it. And the reason we're doing today's show is one, to hang out, but two, to promote a new song that the two of them have been working on for a little bit. And they're about to release on February 12, 2021. It's a new hit song, and I've heard it a couple times. And let me say something, not because they're my siblings, and because my brother said this. By the way, the track is called Just Us. And they played what is pretty much the final version of the song for me, like right before the interview started. And you get hooked right away. It's a good song. And my brother's like, you know, I know that there's probably some bias because, I mean, you're our brother. So you're listening to this. You know, he produced the music. She sang on it. And I said, no, guys, when I first heard it, it immediately hooked me in, like right away. And suddenly it's so good that it's not to say that they're not amazing enough to produce something like this, but you just for a second, for me, I go, who are these people?
Oh, wow.
You are these people. And I say that with, you know, with the most love in the world. So congratulations on this new song that's about to come out. Before we get into this song, which people should be looking forward to, and by the way, where will people be able to find this song? I mean, we're going to play a sample later today during the show. And we're also going to really talk about and get into the going into the kitchen and what ingredients were put in to make this amazing hit. But where will people be able to find this song on February 12th when it comes out?
So we're kind of hoping. You see?
I messed up. I wasn't doing my job.
You know what? Bring Gio. Maybe you can bring.
I got you.
Slide the actual pole back.
Here, I think this might be it.
Yeah.
Ahí estamos.
So sorry, technical difficulty.
Of course, as soon as the show starts, the mic is like still, it's behaving. As soon as it starts, the song is so good. Mike's like, I gotta go.
And then I almost just fell back in my chair.
Yeah, I know. I know. We'll all be dead by the end of this interview, but at least you'll get to enjoy the song. It's fantastic. You'll love it.
It'll be worth it.
It's worth it. Yeah. No, so we're hoping to have it streaming on Spotify.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe even eventually in the future looking into putting it on YouTube. In the meantime, right now we have Spotify as like our main thing. But we'll be doing a lot of promos for that.
Yeah, it'll be available on all major streaming platforms. We know that a lot of people who, are going to be engaging with the music, we're going to be pushing forward to, get the obviously the streams on Spotify, but it'll be available for you on iTunes, iTunes with Apple Music, Amazon Music, just everywhere. It'll be available for you. So just be on the lookout for that.
Really nice, really nice. And, arriving at a place like this where you have such an amazing song, and I say it because nobody has heard it yet, and they will get a chance to sample it in a little bit. But, to arrive to this place, let's go back in time for a little bit to the beginnings of, we'll start with you, Gio, right? The first time that you decided, music is going to be my thing. And more importantly, there's one thing to fall in love with the music, because we all love music to a degree, but for you, I remember you at a certain age, picking up the guitar. And I don't know if that was for you the very first time interacting with something that inspired you to want to do music. But talk about what was the first time that you said, I think this is what I want to do? What's funny is that, for those of y'all who know and follow Victor Cruz Acting Studio, y'all know that I collaborated with the acting studio for 2 semesters of a guitar teaching class. And part of that came from just my love for guitar, just like you were saying, right? And I think that, and I always say, the reason I mention that is because I always say this to my students, right? I always say this to the people that I work with or collaborate with who maybe don't feel like they came from having the it factor, or they think that they were born blessed as some kind of prodigy, because I just wasn't. I was the kind of musician who really, really worked for every bit of what I wanted to get and I got, and so I remember being in high school and coming across this kid who was playing guitar, and I'm not gonna front. I gotta tell you, I'm not gonna front. He was sitting on a desk in a high school. He was surrounded by a group of girls, and they were all enamored by this dude playing guitar. And he was playing Good Riddance, Time of Your Life. I'm dating myself a little bit. It's a good song. Good song.
It's a great song. It's a great song. Good band. And so after the whole thing was done, after he performed, I went up to him and I said, hey man, he was playing the acoustic guitar and I just thought it was so dope. And I said to him, is it hard? Is it hard to learn how to play the guitar? And he just looked at me dead in my face, full conviction. And he said, nah, not at all. Go and grab a guitar and start playing right now. And it's so funny how people don't even realize the kind of impact just a small interaction like that can have. Mm-hmm. And so when I went into my second year of high school, I was moving into a new school and they had a class and I took it for just half a semester, and then I needed some other credit. But it set the journey off. It set the journey off. So, from there, it's all history, right? Learning little chords and things from friends and jamming out to then forming my own band. Later on, we went off to... I formed a 4-piece rock and roll band. We started out as a pop punk outfit, and then became kind of this feel good, Bruce Springsteen, E Street Band, kind of it even became huge. There was horn sections and stuff. It was pretty cool. And we toured a bit. And And then, you know, I just found myself like in music, like just always seeking something new, always just in the cut, always trying to like eat up some new stuff. And in the process of being in bands, you know, you're recording yourself all the time, like DIY recordings on GarageBand, things like that. So for anybody who's out there and is doing that, like, you know, keep doing it, because it's the kind of thing that teaches you as an artist what to listen for. It just attunes your ear to certain things. And so we find ourselves today at a spot where I'm really excited to be both in the front as an artist, right? Who still plays guitar, still sings, still does a bunch of stuff. Still now teaching is another thing that I add to my repertoire of things that I'm doing involved in music. And then now songwriting and working with other musicians is just fire. So on some real, like this has been an honor to work with my sister, just because she has been a talent that is anybody who has met her and seen her sing, like is just moved. They're just like, yo, like even if we be in family gatherings and be like, Aurelius she's got to sing, you know, she's got to get up there and sing. And so to have the opportunity as a songwriter and as a producer to get in the room with Arelis and just start to explore, you know, what Arelis wanted to like do, you know, is different, you know, being your sibling, right? And we all share this, right?
Yep.
Like we know each other on some level, and we know each other really, really well in certain areas of our lives. But I think that on the other side of it, right, as a musician, as an artist, what stories you want to tell, how you want to, you know, just bring forth your stuff, your light, your energy, your power. I think that it takes some real like setting back, making space, and we were able to like sit in a room together and just like see what came. And when things started to pour out, it was like, oh, like, yo, this is dope. You know, it really felt like magical. So
no, that's amazing. And I wanted to ask you, Aurelius, like watching Gio sort of tap into the music world, did that have any influence on you? And when was it that you discovered that, man, you know, I like to sing, or at least I like the world of music, and I want to give this a shot?
Well, so I was actually reminiscing recently because I was writing about this, about like when my first experience with singing was. And you know, growing up with mom, she generally has always loved to sing. She's always loved to do like karaoke and watch theater and all these different things that were like always just in the house. And so I think that like I remember being young and learning like around the age of 7, learning Somewhere Over the Rainbow from The Wizard of Oz because it was her favorite musical. So I think that then I kind of started to explore more of musical theater, and that became like my wheelhouse, right? And so it became like, you know, learning from the greats and listening and just kind of playing by ear and not necessarily having proper vocal training, but, you know, just picking up all those habits that I could and learning those breathing techniques from some of the great singers on Broadway. And then in high school, I kind of just like found that niche and just kept going and going and going. And I think that's when like my voice started to grow into in a position where like people were like, this is amazing, like she's singing like she belongs on a stage. And and people were like, you know, it became like I became a very good singer, and people were like, she's someone who sings. And it became less of like she is a singer who's an artist and who does like her own work. And I think that when COVID happened and we all were like quarantining at home, you know, a lot of us went through like mental health stuff, and we just sat with ourselves, and like it was a time of reflection. And there was like a period of time where like I found myself listening to not only musical theater, but I found myself like over the past like few years like just acknowledging different artists and different styles. And I'm one of those people that like I really study music because I like want to understand what people are doing vocally. So I'm like a weirdo, like I'll listen to like every little detail of a song. And so I'll find like an artist that I like, right? Or I'll revisit someone from the past, right? There was a period of time where I was like I'm gonna be on an SWV phase and just like listen to the SWV only for like a month, you know. And I'd be on my way to work, and that was like all that was pumping through my ears because I wanted to hear the harmonies. I wanted to hear what those sounds were like and what they were doing. And aesthetically, it's a whole completely different generation of music. You know what I mean? It's a different sound, and so. I think that we as musicians, even like with Gio, right, like with picking up producing, like he's hearing a bunch of different sounds, and like he made a good point where he was like, we as musicians, we generally listen for sounds. Even actors do this, right? We imitate everything that we see in life because we need to like figure out how that can be done. So when I'm doing it in my own work, I can like somehow connect to those emotions with those actions, right? And so during that reflection period, I was like, you know, I have a lot of things that I generally have a love-hate relationship when it comes to writing. I love to read and I love to intake information. When I come to writing it out, I find that it's a little harder just because growing up like super sheltered and just I was always kind of a little bit shy when I was younger. So that like timid person is still sometimes there. And so when it comes to writing out like how I feel is like sometimes harder for me. So during this period of time, I took it to myself to say like, you know, write out any thoughts that you have. If you're feeling a certain way, instead of just ruminating in it, like write it down. Because then that rumination can sometimes just come on paper, and then you feel that emotion of like, this has been in my brain. And so I told Gio, like, you know, I want to explore songwriting because I haven't done that and I don't know how to go about starting that. Like, I don't even know where to start. And so, you know, we started listening to Jesse Reyes's album, and one day he calls me. I explained to him, I'm like, oh, you should listen to this album. It's really great. And he calls me and he's like, you know, something that I've noticed is that like a lot of this starts off as guitar and just you in a room singing like words to a guitar, and then the production value comes later. He's like, I feel like because we're distanced right now, we're not in the same room, we're trying to do it virtually, it's like super hard. So we just, you know, we made a space to make it really safe, and we would say, you know, once a week me and him would meet up and I would go to his house, and then, you know, we just sat, and one day we were like, he plays a beat and I'm like, all right, I feel like this needs to be this vibe. And then we start with one line, and then he starts feeding off one line, and then it just became this song. And we were just like, we need to release this. Like, we need to do this. Like, we need to find a place to put this so we can express this. So it's become like almost like a very cathartic situation, like a cathartic process.
For sure. And I'm sure, like, you know, arriving to the point of even just tapping into what your voice is or could be is always a journey. I mean, I think about you, Gio, right? When you first fell in love with music and you started playing the guitar, at what point did you start to kind of tap into like what your voice was? You know, in the beginning, you sort of adapt the style of all the different people you love because you don't quite have you're not even thinking about that. You just want to be where you love. That happens to all artists, right? Yep. And they sort of mold us to who we are till we start to go, what am I thinking? What am I feeling? And for you, Gio, what was that point when you started to say, I think this is who I am? For you, when do you think that was?
Yeah, no, I'm actually, that's true on the imitation, right? And I think that process is actually really important to the like developing of your voice, right? You have to first know what you're trying to accomplish. And there's a lot of people, a lot of brilliant artists out there that are accomplishing that, right? That are tapping into a real emotional thing. And so I believe, right, that we actually are seeing that thing and we're attracted to that thing. We're not necessarily attracted to the outside part of it. We're attracted to the thing that they're tapping into. And so that lures us, right? And so then what we do is so like for me, right? So it was Green Day, and it just so happens, right, that kid was playing Good Riddance. But for me, my dream when I first started playing guitar was that I was going to be Billy Joe Armstrong from Green Day, right? I was doing everything that he was doing and the way that he did it, even the way that I would put my mouth and the way that I would sing, right? And we do that as artists. And I think that part of it comes from us being attracted to the real stuff underneath. And then I think that if you allow yourself, because I don't think it happens for everybody, I think hard work, discipline. I think if you allow yourself to really be going in the routine of that, for any artists who are watching and are going through that process, right? I think that an important part of it is to continue to try and like strip away, because underneath it, you start to find the real thing that is you. I wanted to comment real quick on something that you said, because it's so funny sometimes for ourselves, right? We're thinking about the way that we engage in a certain objective way because we see ourselves. But it's funny that when we got into the room to work on this song for Just Us, I had written this beat and I had created the melody for the chorus, right? I was like, it was just like, for any songwriters are out there and y'all know what it is. When y'all sitting there writing a song, sometimes you don't have lyrics right off a jump. You're doing like a bunch of gibberish. So you're like, you know, you're like doing like little like, you know, whatever, little scatting noises. And I was writing some just like scratch lines for the song. And it's funny where Arelis finds herself maybe
she who is not here.
She who is not here. Where Arelis finds herself in a spot where maybe she didn't always feel like writing. It felt like a chore, right? There were so many moments. Where we were in the element in the room, and it actually just poured out of her. You know what I mean? And it was really, I think, moving for me as a producer and as a songwriter, not just to see my sister like. And just this artist doing what they're meant to do in that moment, right? And you can feel it when it's authentic, and you can feel it when it's phony, right? And it just kind of poured out of her. And so I think that sometimes we think in our head, right? I am this, or I'm not necessarily great at this, or but maybe you just haven't been in a spot where you were in your element. And when you're in your element, all that ish goes out the window and it just kind of pours out of you, you know? I don't know if I necessarily answered the question, but I think for me, it's just like, I think just keep digging. I think for any artist or anybody who's working, like just keep digging, because it actually is inside. We're just attracted to the things that seem like close to what's inside. So we find those things and then we can find them.
No, I think what you've said is absolutely the answer to all of it. You know, there's no right or wrong way, and that's the beauty of art. You're constantly searching, you're creating. Sometimes things happen by accident. You didn't plan them, and actually, that accident is the beauty. It's like the gold in the song. And Aurelius, for you, I wanted to ask you, when did you begin writing lyrics or creating even melodies, right? Melodies and lyrics. And when was that moment where you felt comfortable enough to share with someone else what these ideas were? Because I know that requires growth and courage and belief in self. So talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think like I said, when I told you, I've always had like a love-hate relationship. I feel like there are times where like I would be writing and I would just write things sometimes, not even thinking like, oh, these will be lyrics in the future. I think it was just like, this is something I want to write down or something I want to say in that moment. And so I had been doing that, I don't know, even like before, like during the process of college. I had like little notebooks here and there.
I'm about to talk about your little notebooks. But she showed up to the studio to work on stuff. Like she had all these little notebooks with all these little jottings. So that kind of
it's so it's just a mix of different little notebooks. Like sometimes like, because my goal, like I said, like my goal sometimes is to be like, this journal is just for writing all this stuff, right? And then I'll start on the first like 4 or 5 pages, and then I'll be like, oh, I need a piece of paper for something, and then it becomes this whole other journal for this other stuff, for like scrap paper. And so I'll have like writings in one journal, writings here. So in compilation of all of those things, it would make one journal. But no, so I kind of would like write things here and there. And then, you know, when I mentioned like, how do I start songwriting, Gio was kind of like, well, I'm sure like you've ever written like poems down, or if you've written thoughts down, like those can be lyrics. And in my mind, like switching into that mindset of like, how do I turn this into lyrics? It actually made more sense, because in that moment, it's like what you write down is kind of how you're feeling in that moment. So like looking back, like sometimes I'll sit back with something and I'll be like, you know what, this would make a good song because it's a story of how I was feeling in that moment. So like even while we were writing this song, like there were other things that were still kind of coming up, and so I would write stuff down, and we have like snippets of little songs here and there that we kind of started but never finished. And that's why when this one kind of started to come to fruition, we were like, all right, we need to like make this our focus, release this, and then just kind of keep coming back to those other things. Because if we just do these little half mini songs, like nothing is getting done. And you don't want to start a project and then not finish it. Like we all have a habit of doing that. I feel like we all do that. And all, I mean, like not just us, like people in the world. Mm-hmm. And that's normal, especially during these times where everything is uncertain. It's like really easy to be like, I'm going to start doing this puzzle and I'm going to start this painting and I'm going to start, you know what I mean? And then like, you're like, I have all the time in the world right now. I'm going to finish that later. But I think when it came to like figuring out when I wanted to actually make those into music, I think it was predominantly during this period of time where I had that reflection and saying like, you know, I have always been the kind of person that like the work that I do is very sometimes taxing mentally, just because it is like a social work kind of situation. So sometimes my voice gets a little lost in that. And I just felt finding myself like kind of like removing music a little bit sometimes when my head was too heavy. And I was like, I could be using this as more motivation to say like, I want to create something with this so that way I can actually release those things and then further be in a mental health space that's just healthier for, you know, my own well-being. So I think like sitting down, that's why I was kind of like, it started like really early on in COVID, like maybe like April of 2020. So, you know, it was like an ongoing thing throughout April and the summer and like having these little songs here and there, but we didn't like ruminate on this song and choose this song until like maybe October, November. And then we like decided, no, it was actually before September. It was like July or something like that, August. Okay. Because I had kept saying like, oh, I want to try to get it out by September, and then like September came and I was like, nope, and then I was like, it'll be out probably by November.
I was not in that mind conversation.
And we have those, and sometimes we think we've discussed this. No, I just discussed this with myself.
Yeah.
So it seems like you had been doing this for a while. But it wasn't until pandemic came along that you almost started to make it official that you were actually writing. Because it seemed like you had a lot of ideas. And then, of course, with the two of you coming together, it seemed like now's a great opportunity to really, produce something like this. And I'm sure at the time you didn't know what it was going to be. And then it sort of organically arrived at that place. For you, Gio, from the moment you fall in love with music till you find your voice, till you arrive at a place now where you're producing music and you can work with an artist and you have all the tools organized. Talk to me a little bit about finding your voice and then arriving to a place where you are now creating a platform for another artist to come. Because in a sense, you kind of did that a lot. I mean, growing up together, I saw you with a couple of the bands you were with, and obviously that's a form of growth. But now you are creating a platform for another artist outside of a band or a group. And now it seems like now you're in a place where you can do that. What was your journey from finding your voice to that point?
I think what's cool is that it's still cooking. The cake is still in the oven, right? And the process is still happening, and that every day I learn, right? So I'm really grateful to have, right, Arelis in the room and to be working with her in that way, because if you can allow yourself to be open to it, you can create those platforms, right? And that they're not just serving another person, that you can actually sit there and start to check in with yourself around the way that you see music, the ideas that maybe you believed in that held you back, things that you were locked in was like, this is what is, right? You were real rigid about it in younger growing, right? So for me, it definitely is a shift, right? Because like I said, I started out in the pop punk outfit, right? Doing the guitar thing. And a lot of people who know me as a guitarist, right? And as a singer. And as that evolution happened, I just found myself, I realized that there's a lot of pressure in the world to put yourself in a box. There's a lot of pressure in the world to be one thing and market and all the things that come along with being an artist in the world that we live in. And I think that I just realized how much I loved music, just like all music, like just the experience, the way that it allowed people to connect with each other, the way it allowed people to communicate with each other. There were moments where music could make you all sit around together and cry and heal. And then there were moments when music allowed you to just get up on your ass and just dance, right, with the people that you loved and had joy with each other, sing along and the whole thing. And so I just found that there was room for all of it, and I enjoyed that process. And so now being here, I'm still growing and I'm still learning every day, right, what it means to not just be a good musician, but what it means to be a good communicator, what it means to really be connected to authenticity, in real moments with art. And I'm really grateful for that process. I'm really grateful to be able to be a part of it. One of the things I was actually talking to Mom the other day, and she cracks on us because there was a time when in the times when we used to play at church and stuff. I used to play drums at this church for a little bit, and we'd go into these rehearsals, and I'd beat everybody up in rehearsal. I'd be like, it's gotta be, come on, get it together. Like, and she would he would beat us up. And I think it's so funny because today I think about how blessed I am to have worked and to have had the opportunities to drive at that gift, right? Because it allowed me to have access to it in a way that sometimes I take for granted. So I remind myself of that every day. And when I'm working with Aurelius, it's just so cool to be in a room collaborating with somebody whose mind, while we're similar, right? All three of us are very similar in a lot of ways, are just like a whole nother world, right?
Yeah.
And she'll present ideas and I'm like, oh wow, I would have never thought of that on my own. And so this process is so beautiful that I get to share with dope artists that inspire me to think outside of what I would normally do. So getting from that spot, right? Getting from a spot of imitate. We start with imitating, right? We start with this imitating process. We go into trying to share these things with other people. And then we start to realize that actually it's really about the journey. It's really about who we become along the way. And that every song or every piece, if you're not a songwriter, if you're a painter, if you're an actor, if you're a writer, that every piece along the way is just kind of like a little photo, a photo of that moment in wherever you are, because I know I'll look back, and be like, I'm never gonna look back on Just Us and be like, this is not a bop. But I think that I think that I will look back, right, and I will say, wow, this is where we were. You know what I mean? Which is really, really dope. And so I just hope to be blessed to continue to do that, have many, many more years of working with dope artists, writers, and the nine.
Well, we're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we're going to continue talking to Arelis and Gio about this new song called Just Us, releasing on February 12th, on a handful of platforms. But we're going to get more into that after this break.
Mira what you doing this year for Valentine's Day. Valentine's Day is a day about love and sharing, when lovers express their affections for each other. Pero mira, don't get fresh, okay? If you're looking to express a very special message, maybe you're trying to reconnect with an old lover, a friend, or a family member. I remember when I was a little girl and I liked this boy in class, and I wrote him a little letter. I was like, do you like me? Yes or no, circle one. And he was like, maybe. And I was like, that's not right. And maybe you're trying to figure out, well, how am I going to express that? How can I tell them that I love them? You can send that message through me, because I'm not afraid to tell them how much you love them. But make sure that your message is clean, all right? Don't be trying to send no nasty, fresh messages, because I'm not going to do it. So log on to titasworld.com and make sure that you fill out the form right now, because what are you waiting for? Valentine's Day is right around the corner. Come on.
TITAGRAM, sending personal messages with a Tita touch.
All right. Well, we are back, folks. And of course, that was a message from our good friend Tita, which, by the way, Gio, you created the theme song for Tita.
I did, yeah.
That is another side of you. You talked about, you wear many different hats. Talk to me about the process of creating the theme song for that, because so many people love the music. My wife, Leanna Harper, is the voice on the music. Gio and her collaborated to create such a fantastic theme. And people, you see it in the comments. You see people singing the song. You can hear them singing the song in the comments. And some people are like, oh my God, doesn't that sound like a freestyle song? So just people love it. And maybe you can share a little bit about the process of making that song. I mean, it's really a hit. Tita says it at the end, that's a hit. But, she... So, tell us a little bit about that process.
Yeah, man. Well, for Tita, anything. For Tita, the world. I got you, mami. Bendición. That was just fun, right? That was and again, right, a growing process, right? It was in the process of figuring out like, oh, songwriting in this vein is so different, right? If I'm writing a song for a rock band, it's different than if I'm writing a song with Aurelius, then it's different than writing a theme song for a cartoon.
Right.
And so adjusting was a learning process. And it was so cool because I remember you had come to me and you had kind of done what I just said in the other part of the interview around like doing like some rough sketch lyrics. Like you sent me like a little like thing like, and I remember just going off of that idea and going back to like the home place of saying like simple was better, right? And not overcomplicating a situation. And when we found that, I remember being in the kitchen area with your.
We were literally recording. So Gio was at my desk. I had turned my closet into a recording booth before I created a booth here at the studio.
That's right.
And so there we were. I was at the table. I think I was at the table just watching you guys work. Like a viejo in the chair, just. And it's the lyrics. Like when I'm literally working on an episode, I'm singing to the computer. I'm singing to the computer the lyrics. I mean, you could ask my wife and the kids sing it. And my son who's 3, like my daughter who's 7, like they hear the music and immediately they know it's Tita time. So that is... that says so much about what you've created because it really sticks and it leaves an impression. I wanted to just ask you, you go by the name Gio the Gran Eklectic. And I wanted to ask you, how did you get that name and what does that represent?
Yeah, I wanted something that felt like authentic to who I was. And I think it kind of ties into the comment I said before around like the world desperately wanting you to be one thing for their own expectations. And if you find yourself in a spot as an artist where you're holding yourself back from, you normally do one kind of music and you want to do this other thing and you hold yourself back, or you're a painter, a sculptor, a writer, or whatever it is, and you're holding yourself back, right? I was trying to figure out something that was going to like liberate me of that. And so for me, it's just really for me, right? It didn't ever need to be anything that was like cool to say or like cool, like, oh, this is going to stick. This is going to be catchy. You know what I mean? Right. It was mostly just a reminder to myself that it was okay for me to be everything that I was at all times that I was.
Yeah.
And so for me, Gio the Gran Eklectic, I originally was Gio the Great Eklectic. And then I put Gran in there because I really wanted to, I wanted to lock into a bit of that, my Boricua, a little bit of that kind of essence to who I was too. And so it also just rung nicely. And so Gio the Gran Eklectic was then born.
I love it. And so you produce many different types of music. I mean, I've hung out with you where, you've played, all different types of tracks for me, whether it's rock to hip hop to, jazz. I mean, we've explored many different things. So if folks, wanted to check out beats or, if they wanted to reach out to you with the possibility of, checking out music that you have, maybe you producing music for them, like where could they go? How could they reach you if they were curious to do that?
Yeah. So you can find me at the tag at Gio the Gran Eklectic. Just to make it, a little more funky and how weird I am. Eklectic, EKLEC. You can find me there on IG. You can find me on TikTok. And just connect with me. I don't know if it's coming through in the vibe, but for me, I love collaborating. I love making music. So if you're interested in doing that and connecting with me, or just sharing music with me, or just connecting with me, like, as another musician who just wants to share music, please reach out. I would really, really love that. I really dig hearing that.
That's awesome. And talking about collaboration, here you guys. Okay, so you've decided we're going to do Just Us. We're going to make this happen. What was day one for you recording as the recording artist coming through? Because you recorded at your studio at your place, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what was it like day one for you? Talk to me about that process.
Well, actually, so we actually had 2 recording sessions, because at one point, so this song has gradually gone through a lot of changes. Like where day one was when we first like started the song is now where the song is right now. Like there are elements of it that are still the same, but there's definitely like been growth there. And so there was a period of time where we thought we had like the solid, like what we wanted as the track. And so we set up a time where like, we went in there, we did the recording, and then we were like, we're gonna come back and do any like harmonies or add anything later on. So it became like that recording process. I think for me in the beginning, like early on before doing this whole process, recording for me was always like a little tricky, because I had only recorded for things like specific events, right? So like if I needed it for like an audition thing for a school or like for whatever, then I would sit and record, and it was like this whole big thing, and I would get like super nervous about like being on microphone and being monitored and hearing myself and being like, I don't know if I can sing like this. This is weird.
Does it sound weird right now listening to yourself?
Not anymore. No, not anymore, because now I'm at a comfort level where like I can do this and be fine. But that's what I mean. I think that's part of the growth is like when I went in for day one, it was definitely like still kind of timid on that. And then now like we recently did the re-vocals for this now release, and I went in with a very different attitude, and we came in with different energy. And I think what's good about the collaboration is that Gio's a very good collaborator in a different way, because I feel like he's the kind of person that is like, you know how like you would have an art teacher and you would go to class and like you would make a mistake and there'd be that one person who wants to throw away the paper and then be like, I want to start over. He's the kind of person that is like, no, let's make something out of that. Like, we don't throw that away. Like, we can use it. Like, we'll make something from this, right? And because it just kind of works that way, I think that is part of what makes the process even much more, like, open to, like, endless possibilities. And so I think if someone is starting out, or if someone is, versus someone who's, like, producing all the time, who's like, I know how the structure is, right? There's less creativity or creative kind of control on the artist end. And I think that you as a producer, I think that's helpful to have that openness, because then an artist can come in and be like, hey, what do you think about this idea? And then you're open to hearing it. And you've even told me before, you're like, I will be okay with the idea if you sell it to me. If you're like kind of like, I'm going to tell you like, maybe not. You know what I mean? Like, and that's good to have, because you need the balance. You need the balance of like someone who's like, nah, I have these ideas. And then, so I think that like, that is a part of it. And then when it comes to engineering, like I can sing and I can hear myself, right? But there's a difference of like the other person who's listening, right? And so him as an engineer, while we're working on vocals, becomes like, all right, this was great, but now try it like this, right? And then it becomes like a mode of like, he's hearing something else that I might not be hearing myself, because I'm in this state of like with headphones and doing this and not performing it to anybody. I'm like performing to a wall. So like there's a level of aspect that comes in with character and with attitude. And so, giving that little note of like, singing like you're gonna perform it for the last time, or singing like you're, like your bad bitch vibes, like
those are real quotes.
You know what I mean? And so I think that's helpful, because it also can get the best take out of you.
Yeah.
And then you sing, full out, and it helps me to grow and feel like, okay, this is the energy I need to have when I'm doing the next recording session, because I can feel the difference sometimes I was even losing my words, or like I would fall out of it because I was in the moment, right?
Sure.
And so it becomes like a very open creative space where it just kind of can grow and foster. And so I definitely have become a lot more comfortable with recording vocals, so I feel like that's helped with this process as well.
And can I just add real quick, because that's the element of the record. Thank you.
Yeah.
That was very sweet. I appreciate it. And it's funny because like the first handful of sessions we had, it wasn't even the final vocal stuff, right? It was a lot of the nuts and bolts stuff behind the story of what we wanted to tell, right? And when I originally came to her, we were already talking that we wanted to collaborate on a song, but we didn't know what we wanted to do. It wasn't like we were like, we want to do a song and we want it to be this vibe and we wanted to tell this story. We didn't have that planned out. And so when I created the beat for Just Us, when I created the original track for Just Us, and I had like just a melody line of the chorus, when she came in, I told her, this is what I've got. And I had some like BS lyrics, like, I think we're in love or something. Like it was whack. It was corny. It was corny.
I think
it was
that
corny.
was actually
It was corn muffin.
corn muffin.
There's nothing corny about love.
No, it's not corny about love, but it was a little on the nose. It was a little on the nose. But it was a scratch vocal, and I knew that. And when we came in and I showed her that, right, she pulled out her little stack of notebooks. And she's like shuffling through, and she's sitting there, and she's in the car, she's got her pen, she's doing the thing. And something shifted. I think it was that first meeting into the second meeting of writing, right? Where, you know, it was like da 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 da, right? And she was just like, oh, I know what I want to say. You know, once we had like, it feels like it's just us, then we were like, oh, this is what it is. It's that smitten feeling. It's that you just met somebody and you don't even know this person like that. You're not even, but you just, you're connected and you're so excited. You feel like you're in middle school again. And that feeling. And so the minute that hit, Aurelius just hit the pen to paper and words just started to pour out of her. So a lot of the first sessions before we even got to the vocal stuff was like her just figuring out the attitude of what the story was and how she wanted to tell it. And a lot of that came from, who truly Arelis is in the core of who she is as a writer and as an artist. And I got to just be there to kind of like support along the way, like, oh, well, what if we said this word instead? Or what if we did this instead? Like just like little touch-ups. But a lot of it was Aurelius kind of like the steering wheel of those words and that storytelling.
Nice.
And it made for a really cool song.
That's awesome, man. And let me ask you, Gio, from the moment you turn on your computer to that moment where you bounce that song onto your desktop, on external hard drive, or wherever, because now you're going to share the song with the world or somebody just so they can hear it for the first time. What is your process from turning on their computer to bouncing that song?
When I'm not yelling at my equipment and slamming on tables.
That sounds like me. That sounds like me. During the pandemic, I punched my desk many a time. And I know my desk was looking up at me like, dude, what did I do to you? I hold up all your shit.
It's real, man. And anybody knows the DIY recording life. Like, there's just always that moment. You're like moving chords around. No. But the process, I think, is different every time. Sometimes like I'll wake up and similar to the way that Arelis talks about her tactical brain around like singing, right? Like my brain is just always spinning wheels. So like sometimes I have a melody and I know I want to come in with that melody. Sometimes I'll hear an old track and I'm like, I want to sample that. And so I already know in my head, I heard a hook or a line and I was like, I want to sample that. So I already know I'm coming in with that idea. But sometimes just, I think that at home base is grabbing a feeling. I think that's been home base for me a lot because in the past, I've been too intellectual about music. And sometimes it has held me back. And so I think if things feel good, you can't deny that. And so that's my barometer, for like things. I'm like, if this makes me right now, right when I crank it, like on my speakers, if this makes me want to get up out of my chair and like just be like, and like stank face it out, then I know that I'm on, I know I'm on the right track, right?
Sure.
And then I can use my intellectual brain later, right, to like be intentional, right? But at the heart of it is feeling, and always learning. Just so I'm attuned to like so many great producers online who share a lot of great information. So, I mean, we live in an information world right now. So really there's no excuse to both know how to do something right and how to do it wrong because it's literally everywhere. So I'm really, really grateful that those resources are there. But I also actually really sitting in a spot of trusting what your ears hear, right? And not always getting caught up in, I have to have this piece of equipment, I have to have this sound, I have to follow this rule, I have to do, because some of the best things that we love, some of the greatest things that we, in terms of art, have been people who have accidentally stumbled upon the best accident. That they knew sounded good, and they trusted that enough that people were gonna rock with it. And guess what? They did. And now we have it. And now it's like an industry standard. So, yeah, man, I use, on a tech front, I use Studio One. I'm hoping that by saying that, maybe they'll sponsor me.
You never know.
Persona Studio One. And I've tapped into a bunch of stuff, right? Like Logic. It started out on GarageBand, like a lot of people. It's actually a really good program for starters. So if anybody's like feeling like, oh, all I have is GarageBand and I need to
it's pretty good.
Start.
It's great.
Start there. You start to learn how to use reverbs. You start to learn how to mix. You start to learn how to do it. So, that's the that's the process. That's process.
Great.
Yeah.
Now, when you bounced, even the version of Just Us that you let me hear today before we started our interview, when you bounced that version and you played it back for yourself, what was that experience like for you?
Yeah. So for me, I often treat it as like, and I think we were talking about this a little bit too, is that I like to take mixes on the road with me. I like to move around with the mix because that's how I'm usually listening to music. I'm often in the street walking throughout New York City. I walk forever. I walk blocks and blocks and just have music
I love
in
that. That's the best experience.
So good.
You can really have a relationship with music when you travel somewhere, whether it's walking or driving in a car. Like if you're by yourself, you really have an experience, which I love.
Yeah. And that's how I feel with it, is that I can really like be in it by myself in that moment on my walk. And so what I'll do is, that's how I test mixes. So I'll run a mix, I'll bounce it. It's usually not the final. I know that I'm going to take it for a walk and I'm going to make mental notes to myself. When I took this on a walk, I'm going to feel it, right? I'm going to enjoy it, but I'm going to make these mental notes for myself. When I took it on a walk, this was a little loud. This was a little low. This needed to be. And then I can come back and just make those adjustments.
And how do you test it? Like what are the different ways that you test it?
Yeah, I test it the way that most people are going to be listening to music and engaging with it, right? Because I have like really nice monitors at home. There was, the investment towards the studio, and I have really great, cans. Really great studio monitor. Really great studio monitor headphones. But I know that most people are not listening to music like that. Most people are listening to it through their phone, on TikTok, on some like whatever. They're listening to it through like AirPods. I almost said it wrong. iPod headphones or AirPods.
He's also a Spanish teacher, by the way. Yeah. And so he has these moments where, like dad moments. I have those moments all the time. It's like, take off those earpods. They're earpods, dude. All right. Which you shared with me before the interview.
Yeah, man. Yeah. But yeah, that's the process, because at the end of the day, that's how people are going to be receiving it. So you want to make sure that, it feels the same way it feels when you're in the room on those expensive monitors. You want that same feeling to come across on just kind of standard headphones.
Got you. Now, Aurelius, today you heard the almost finished version of these words, which, just the process of writing was on every single piece of paper that you could get your hands on that was this pile to coming to this is what this song is going to be, and of course changing it and shifting the words around, as it evolved. But listening to what you heard today, what did that do for you? I mean, this is your first song you're going to release. What was that experience like listening to it?
I feel like that experience was super exciting. I mean, there's like a lot of emotions that come with that, right? Like there's a level of like pride for myself in saying like, I did that. I finished and I made a song and we are releasing it, and that's like a big deal, right? So it's like something to be, it feels like accomplishing, right? And then there's like excited because it's like, I'm now hearing myself in a very different way, right? Like most times when I would hear myself was recordings of myself for something I needed to get done, or was something that was related to musical theater, which I still love to do. But it's kind of nice to hear in a different setting of like, these are the things that I also like to sing on a norm. And so like even just singing music that's not musical theater in the shower and like what I sound like when I'm singing those things, but now it's like my own song. So it's kind of nice because it allows me to also grow and figure out like, okay, I like what I did here, and like how can I further grow that sound so that it's my own individual sound. Because for me, it's almost like I'm inspired by other artists and I want to also be able to inspire other people as well. So like just even, young people who are going to listen to this song when it gets released, right? Like we don't know who it's going to touch, and maybe that one song really did it for somebody else and it now encourages them to follow their dream. And so like it's a big responsibility to have. So it's kind of like, it's nerve-wracking, but it's exciting. It's like accomplishing. It's like there's a lot of different mixed emotions there, but it's super, like I feel like happy and excited is the high point of that.
That's great.
Yeah.
And so for the first time ever, we are going to let our audience listen to a sample, a glimpse of Just Us. And here it is. All right.
Bop. It's a bop.
Like I said, this song, it hooks you in from the beginning. I mean, it sounds great. It's exciting. Like I said, for a moment, even listening to it right now, like I felt like this is not the person sitting next to me. But you guys are so talented. You've worked so hard. Gosh, congratulations. This is a big deal and you guys did it. And I'm just so glad that I can share, this lovely conversation with you guys about the process, about arriving to a place where you can have this voice, because even for me as an artist, I'm in a place now where I feel like I trust myself so much that I can actually release projects and things to people and not be afraid to do it. But it wasn't like that happened overnight, And, this is a thing that, I think we were talking about this earlier, that if you don't create a deadline for yourself, you'll just continue to want to add more and more and more to the project. And it's the natural thing that an artist does because it's your baby. You love them.
And on some sneaky level, the adding, right? It doesn't always need that thing. But that adding process is your way of maybe not owning the fact that you're actually hiding behind the fear of not putting that thing out, right? So I'm not saying that that's always the case. I will say that I've been in situations like that where I'll be like, oh, it's not ready. Oh, it's not, this needs to be fixed. This needs to be fixed. This needs to be fixed. Just put it out. Just put it out. No one's going to hear that decibel difference. No one's going to, and if they do, F them. No, but I think that's a big part of it, right? Sometimes it's not that it needs that thing.
Sure.
It's that we're hiding behind it needing more things to be valid. And that's not the case. It's already valid.
Yeah. Or is it a way to procrastinate? Not procrastinate, but hold back.
Yeah.
Because like you said, I think you were sort of leaning into it like you're afraid.
Yeah.
You're afraid to share. But this track is so hot. Like you have
Thank you.
nothing to hold back. Let the people hear this. And of course, that's going to happen on February 12th, 2021. You're going to be able to hear this thing on Spotify. There'll be some other platforms that I know you guys will let us know. And at some point, it may be available on YouTube. There might be a music video down the line. Who knows? After the song is released, what is next for the two of you guys?
More music.
More music. Good.
No, but I think what's great about that is that you can find me on multiple like mediums if you want to find out more what's coming.
Mm-hmm.
I'm on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter.
Give him that handle. Give him that handle.
All as Arelis Cruz Music.
Yeah.
And so you'll find out more about like this song coming. You'll get to learn a little bit about who I am as an artist, and I think it's just fun to just kind of be open-minded to hear what other people want to do. But I think that we have some little things here in the works, and there's one song that we kind of started, and I was like, I've been really adamant. No. I've been really adamant about. I've been really adamant about continuing. Like we have like a verse and a chorus, and I'm like, you need to send me the rest of the guitar.
Yeah. Here, let's
Is this a whole other song?
Let's say what she's trying to say without being mean on camera. All right.
The camera is still rolling, so we're gonna get it all. We're gonna get it all.
Here's what happened. One day we were working on Just Us, and I grabbed my guitar, and I was just sitting there. It was like during a break. We took a break in the middle of a session. We're sitting in the living room, and I'm playing the guitar, and she just starts singing this thing, and we're like, "Oh, that's cool." It's kind of like a deep cut, and it really is something special. And so she told me, "Listen, I want to keep writing to this. Send me a scratch track that I can write to."
Right.
And since we've been working on Just Us, and there's been a lot on the plate,
You have not sent her.
I have not sent it to her.
Gotcha.
So every time we get together, she'd be like, "Oh yeah, this is great." After we're done with the session, she's like, "Oh, by the way, if you could send me that track."
So let's create a deadline right now, and it's on camera that you must send her this scratch track so she can get going. Because I'm gonna tell you right now, February 12th is gonna come along. People are gonna fall in love with this song, and they are gonna be ready for the next track. We got no time to waste. We don't know what tomorrow will bring, but you guys have so much to offer. So what do you think, Gio? You'll send her a track today, tomorrow? Give us a time. Give us a date.
He's like, definitely not today.
Definitely not today. But here's what I'll give. I'm gonna put it on my schedule probably for Friday.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll have you something this Friday.
What time on Friday?
5 p.m. Friday. Give me end of day business day.
EOD. Now, what's funny about EOD is that depends on what is end of day for that person.
11:59.
We're 11:59 p.m. because people are like, it's like 5:30 p.m. Like, where's my track? Where's my track? Hey, I said end of day. Gio, where can we find you if we want to connect with you? You mentioned it earlier, but like all your handles, people want to come to you for tracks. They want to collaborate with you. Where can they find you?
Yep, Gio the Gran Eklectic. That's EKLECTIC. So just the first C is the one that's changed to a K. Gio the Gran Eklectic. That's gonna be on IG, TikTok, just everywhere, Facebook, Twitter, whatever. All the handles. And what's dope too is that it's a feel-good bop that you can have right for Valentine's Day, which happens that Sunday. So, you want to cuddle up with that special someone, or you just want to feel like you cuddling up with that special someone. You just want to have that feeling.
Yeah.
You're going to grab that on that Friday before Valentine's.
And
Listen.
if you're celebrating Valentine's Day by yourself, then you could be just us with yourself too.
Hey.
Because
That's
listen,
it.
you gotta love yourself.
Self-love
Love
is the
it.
best love sometimes.
Hey, I see you with the Ari. I see you.
And I'll even push. Quickly moving away from that, I will even encourage people to play the song, film themselves dancing to the song,
Yes.
tagging these two guys right here, so that they know that you're vibing, that we're all connected, that there's something really cool happening for your special Valentine's Day. And again, as Aurelius just said, you're by yourself. Hey, you with you. Have some fun.
It's a bop. You could dance to it.
It's a bop. You can dance to it. That's all that matters. Guys, thank you so much for doing the show.
Oh, thank you for having us.
Really appreciate
Yeah,
it.
for
I mean,
real.
this was a great way to come back. This is like the top of my new season almost, you know. Season 2, baby. We're back. And this is really
just us.
and it's just us. Yeah. Very nice. Very nice. Well, thank you guys so much. Love you. Love you. Love you. And what can I say, folks? We had a fantastic episode. I love these guys. They're amazing. Here at the Victor Cruz Acting Studio podcast, we always feature amazing artists, anything from actors to casting directors, agents, managers, and now musicians. I think this is the first time we've introduced musicians, but they're not just musicians. They're also actors and comedians, and they wear a lot of different hats, which this is why this platform makes total sense for them. Thank you so much for joining us. If by any chance you need any one of our services, we offer self-tape services for actors. We also do private coaching and private virtual coaching for actors anywhere in the world. Our website is victorcruzactingstudio.com. And right here on, if you're watching this on YouTube, don't forget to definitely subscribe to our channel, share this with folks, and we will see you next time.